Hey folks, I'm Josh Lebowitz, a product marketing manager here at Komodo. Here with Zach Forsyth today, the director of product strategy for Komodo Dome and cWatch, which we'll be talking about today. We'll also be showing you a little UI product demo with one of our SEs, and then there'll be time for some Q&A in the chat box, in the chat area on the bottom of your screen after we're done, after the video portion is finished. We'll be taking your questions. So as we're talking, feel free to type them in or wait till the end. Whatever you want to do is fine. Talking about cWatch, we're monitoring the internal network. We're watching out for breaches and threats. We're handling compliance issues. What's the elevator speech? Give us what is cWatch? Why do we need it? Why is it an amazing product?
Yeah, so cWatch is a very critical part of Komodo's vision, which is called 360.
Yeah.
So basically, security begins with intelligence. So I think you'd agree, if you're going to try to secure something, you should have world-class intelligence about what is happening within your networks.
Right.
So cWatch is designed to be a breach and threat prevention and compliance solution that actually allows you to gather intelligence from, say, your web servers, from your Active Directory servers, from all across your internal networks, and then get intelligence from that and provide that back to you so you can make very smart decisions about what you're doing to secure those devices at the perimeter or on the endpoint or in your firewalls. You know, you've got to have that intelligence to begin with.
Okay, excellent. So we're talking about the internal network. We're talking about how cWatch as a product, as a solution rather, fits into Komodo 360. Tell us a little bit about Komodo 360 and where cWatch fits in the Komodo 360 story and why that's important.
The Komodo 360 vision is really about protecting all areas of your network that can come under attack. So you have cWatch, it protects your internal network and your devices, and we have that intelligence that sits in that area. Then we talk about the boundary. So we have things like Komodo Dome, anti-spam, data loss prevention that can protect you at the boundary.
Right.
And then we have the endpoint. So those three different three different areas actually allow you to have this 360-degree vision of your networks and 360-degree protection against any sort of threats.
Okay, and that's an end-to-end. So Komodo 360 then, taking solutions for both the boundary, the internal network, and the endpoint. It's a STAP-compliant solution. Tell us a little bit about specialized threat analysis and protection, why that's important, why that's needed.
Yeah, so you've got to take things beyond just simple protection and signature-based detection. You've got to have that intelligence, and with cWatch what we're doing is actually providing some very specific modules to address the intelligence on different parts of your network.
Right.
So to begin with, we have a cWatch network sensor. Okay. It's a passive sensor that actually you can hook up to a span or mirror port off a switch or many switches.
Okay.
And you can actually then look at the traffic that's flowing east to west across your network or out north to south, leaving and going out to the internet. Okay. So you get really beautiful intelligence about not only what's happening on your endpoints, but what sort of traffic flow is happening. You know, who's reaching out to which systems, how much Active Directory traffic's flowing across the network, are people sharing files that are possibly infected. We can tell all of that information from doing a passive network sensor.
Okay.
Then we have another really nice sensor that's designed to protect your web server.
Okay.
So you can think of it like a web application firewall. So we sit on the web server itself. We're constantly providing signatures back to the agent itself to protect that web server against things like the OWASP top 10 attacks.
Okay.
And we're also doing the underlying operating system protection too. So it goes beyond just the web application itself, but to actually provide protection against, say, someone changing the credentials on the server or messing around with the database that web application is connected to.
Okay.
Third and last one is actually the cWatch agent, which can sit on any device. Could sit on your laptop, could sit on a server itself. And again, we're looking for intelligence that's specific to the endpoint itself. So we're covering those three areas. So web servers, whether they sit internally, whether they are hosted somewhere else, providing that protection against directed attacks. But then we're looking for the intelligence on the internal network through the network sensor and on the endpoints themselves.
Excellent.
So It's very thorough.
That is very thorough. So, and speaking of which, it's also very customizable. You've got any number of sensors that an organization can place wherever they want, basically. And then tell us a little bit about what happens then. Okay, so intelligence, very important. How is that intelligence being sort of dealt with, correlated, analyzed, and then sent back to you? What happens from that point? Okay, here's all this intelligence is going somewhere. discuss, if you would. Tell us
Yeah.
where it's going and why that's important.
So a very popular solution recently has been security incident event managers. Everyone thought that was sort of like a magical solution to all the logs coming off your firewalls and all the logs coming from all of your network devices, your core router, your servers, things like that. And everyone collected all this information. They were supposed to make life easier. And unfortunately, it seems like they just sort of shifted the problem over to just a slightly different platform. So what we're trying to do with cWatch is actually take all of that data and move it into cWatch, but then provide you real actionable intelligence.
Right.
So we do a lot of correlation around that. We have Komodo threat experts look at that data and then provide you back actual meaningful data that you can then make intelligent decisions on your network to lock down a device or to, tighten up a firewall policy, things like that.
Okay, cool. So here you may be weak in this area, or your protection systems are working really, really well overall, but you might want to check this out or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. To have very strong security, you have to have, all-encompassing sort of intelligence about what's happening on the network.
Right.
Any gaps in that area is going to leave you potentially exposed.
Right.
If you don't know about something, how can you put in sort of methods and practical things to actually stop that?
Okay. And cWatch works seamlessly then with a Komodo AEP, Advanced Endpoint Protection, as well as Komodo Dome. Is that correct? They sort of, together, that is your Komodo 360 basically, and that's sort of what it is.
Yeah, we're trying to ensure that cWatch can actually tie back into the other Komodo products. So what we want to do is share intelligence.
Right.
We've already mentioned that it's all about intelligence and collecting information. So the more information we can collect from more sources, then the better our intelligence can be.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And then why okay, this is an obvious question, but not necessarily an obvious answer. Why cWatch versus some of the competition?
So there's actually a very famous hack that happened last year, the Target hack. You've probably heard of it,
yeah,
and many people have probably heard of it.
That, but yeah.
So Target had a very large security team. They had supposedly all the best of breed products. They had security incident event managers. They seemed to be doing all the right things from the outside, but they were simply being overrun by the alerts. So if you're not actually getting intelligence that's sound to begin with, it doesn't matter how many alerts you get, if you start ignoring them or you're not getting the right alerts, then you're still going to be in the same position that someone doesn't even have those tools.
Right.
So we need a little bit of a shift in the way that we actually look at that data and look at that intelligence. So cWatch is designed to get away from having an overabundance of information that's not actually usable, to paring it down to something that's very focused, very specific, and very relevant to your organization.
These are the things we need. You're eliminating ideally a lot of false positives with the human analysis and such. Very, very helpful. Yeah, if you declutter your environment, you can sort of focus on, these 5 things are actually important. Let's deal with them.
Absolutely.
Or let's look at them, or let's look into them. Okay, terrific. Anything else before we break to John McIntosh?
Yeah, we also forgot to mention that we're utilizing Komodo Valkyrie.
Yes, absolutely. Let's discuss our verdict system.
The Komodo endpoint agent and the network sensor can actually take files off the network. It watches as they flow past, and we can send that to Valkyrie, which is our file verdict platform at Komodo. Mm-hmm. That file verdict platform takes files and it actually runs them in a sandbox. So we execute them, we see if they're malicious or if they have good behavior, and we also do static and dynamic analysis on those files.
Right.
And we also then eventually do expert human analysis if our machine learning and our automated analysis can't give us a verdict.
Right.
So again, we're not just taking sort of passive information off the network and saying, someone sent a file to someone else or shared something to these multiple servers. Mm-hmm. We're actually giving you intelligence back on what that file was, whether that was known to be good, known to be bad, or something that we actually didn't know what that file was.
Right. Okay.
So cWatch is all about providing real intelligence that's actually useful to your business rather than just being flooded with events.
Here's 4,000 alerts. Thanks. Great.
Exactly.
I'll be looking through those.
4,000 identical events is a problem.
No, that is a problem. Okay, terrific. Let's take this moment to break, and we'll throw to John McIntosh, one of our SEs, to walk you through the product a little bit more in depth, and then we'll be back for some Q&A. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Josh. Let's dive right in. cWatch is a cloud-based managed breach prevention and vulnerability assessment solution. Easily deployed into any IT environment, cWatch shifts the burden of 24/7 network threat detection, vulnerability, script scanning, compliance reporting, and continuous monitoring from your team to ours. Backed by the Komodo SOC team, the SOC team augments your existing IT team to ensure rapid detection and response to network incidents. In addition to monitoring the network flow for incidents, the SOC team reviews suspicious network activity to identify zero-day attacks that may not otherwise trigger an alert. This intelligent review and response by industry professionals not only increases the overall visibility into your network, it reduces the potential for false positive alarms and protects you from zero-day attacks that may have slipped by or gone unnoticed. Now let's log into the cWatch dashboard. The dashboard allows you to gain intelligence, visibility, and situational awareness. As you can see from the dashboard, you get a 360-degree threat management view, all through a single pane of glass, for uniform log and threat reporting from the network layer straight through to the application layer. This includes packet captures, cPanel, and service-side logs, which allow you to identify network threats in real time by capturing and analyzing device logs. It also facilitates internal and external compliance reporting. Let's go ahead and look at the logs that we've collected over a 24-hour period. cPanel is able to show you logs you have collected over this 24-hour period, which is a good indicator of a potential network event that should command your attention. We're also able to look at where those logs are coming from. cWatch is multi-tenant in nature, so you're able to look at where those logs are coming from for each one of your customers, or if you're an enterprise, from each one of your locations. You can also look at top applications, such as Apache logs. You can look at where logs are coming from deployed sensors within your environment, as well as Linux logs, and additional logs from any application that you may have in your environment. We also look at products such as routers, firewalls, and in this case, a FortiGate UTM. Let's go ahead and move to security events. Over the same 24-hour period, I'm now looking at top attacks and the sources of those attacks, as well as the accompanying destinations of where those attacks may be happening in my environment. Along with this information, you can quickly see the type of attacks that may be landing in my environment, such as potentially bad traffic, attempted information leaks, and gives you the visibility as to what may be going on so you can take the appropriate action. I can also look at the top firewall event sources, again, a good leading indicator as to where to focus my attention. As you can see from this particular IP, there's over 22,906 logs that have been collected over this 24-hour period. I can also look at the firewall events on a permanent basis as another leading indicator. Let's go ahead and look at the incident management system. So now that we're on the Incidents tab, you can see that cWatch has a fully integrated case management system. The cases, as you can tell, have been opened by particular time, the name of the attack, the name of the case that's fully customizable, the customer that was impacted by this particular alert, the Security Operations Center tech that is actually working on the case, the priority of the case, the status of that case, whether it's open, in progress, or closed, and more importantly, the rule that actually triggered this event, whether it's a correlated rule or a default rule. I can also look at the number of alerts. Top 10 alerts that have gone off in my environment, which is over 1,000, and the number of alarms that have also triggered. I can also look at the incidents, the types of cases that are open, whether it's for informational purposes, and as you can see, I have one critical case that has been opened, one high case that's been opened, a high priority case that's been opened, and 3 priority cases that this particular security engineer is working on. Let's look at how cWatch handles threat and breach detection. cWatch Network has a host of sensors that can be deployed anywhere within your network to correlate data, allowing you to run multiple queries to aid in threat and breach prevention by monitoring your endpoints, Active Directory, Radius, and/or database servers, as well as cloud-based or on-premises-based applications. By gaining file, network, endpoint, user action, visibility, you can prevent and detect malware, insider threats, outside attack threats, phishing domains, as well as bot clients. let's run an investigation on VirusScope and take you through the steps of how these queries can be initiated. Now let's look at the endpoint sensor. As you can see, just reiterating on the point, this is a multi-tenant system, and we're going to choose a particular customer to look at the sensor collection on that customer. VirusScope. Let's look at the VirusScope sensor. Now VirusScope is running on the endpoint, and if you're using the Komodo endpoint, the VirusScope is monitoring the processes that are happening on the endpoint. The cWatch sensor is collecting that and forwarding the information up to the cloud, where we then take a deeper inspection and look as to what information is being forwarded. By double-clicking and drilling down into the log here, you can see we've actually parsed the log for you to view. You may want to go and take a look at the various different headers within the log to consume that information. Komodo cWatch on the endpoint has various queries that you can look at. For instance, you can look at malware files that may be running on the endpoint. You could look at unknown files. You can look at DNS registry key values that may be changed, or DNS queries. Set registry key entries. Other queries such as TCP connections detected, not suspicious traffic, information leaks. Now let's run a DNS query. So the DNS connection is basically traffic that's traversing through the network. Given that we could do a full packet capture, we're actually capturing the packets. The DNS connections packets that are traversing the network, and we're going to take a deeper look here. Each one of these packets that are captured, we can take a drill down capability by simply double clicking on that entry. As you see, the time is logged, the source IP, and by double clicking we get to the drill down capability of looking at the actual rule log. Here's where you can consume additional information in this packet and derive any high level or deep level information that you would need to. Now let's look at how to build a customized rule. Let's go to the Rules section, Correlation and Rules Management. Now I'm in the screen where you can author all of the customized rules for your environment. Let's start by clicking on a folder, and actually in building my customized rules, I could build a rule with any one of the folders that makes sense for my environment. I'm going to choose Custom Rules, go here, click on the rule, menu-driven interface, and I'm going to enter the rule name. It's IDS IPS rule. The severity of this rule I want to be a critical rule. The duration of the rule that's going to fire, I'm going to say it's going to be 1 minute. Enter a short description of the rule, IDS detection. And then I'm going to go for the definition of that rule. Now the definitions that are used for the rule are the same queried events that are housed within cWatch. So I'm going to go up here and type in the definition of this rule and keep it consistent so it's an IDS customized rule. And I'm going to add the queries that I want to be associated with this rule. And I'm going to enter agent ID, and I'm going to select source IP, my threshold. I'm going to set my threshold for 20. And what this rule is actually saying is that the source IP, based on an IDS or IPS triggered event, that has an interval of 20 times, this rule is going to fire. I'm going to go ahead and save that. As you see, this rule is now added to my custom rules section, and it's that simple to build a rule in cWatch. Now we're going to take a look at another component of cWatch. Web design around protecting your web server and environment. cWatch Web offers a holistic approach to web application security by providing full server management monitoring of not only the web server itself, but also critical server components, along with helping your organization become PCI compliant. Let's run a few queries and reports and look over the top attacks, malware, and application logs to get a better understanding of what the SOC sees and how it can help your organization stay secure by correlating the following collected intelligences, such as web application firewall logs, database access logs, web server logs, logs for configuration changes, OS authentication logs, security logs, OS level event logs, control panel logs. All goes into building the various different reports. Now that we've created all the rules and we're able to correlate all of our information, now that we can generate a report that allows us to look at all the top attacks, malware, application logs, everything the Security Operations Center sees, utilizing this report to become PCI compliant, to create a better understanding of where environmental threats are occurring, and how to create a better breach and threat prevention policy by understanding all the information inside your own home environment. Let's take a look at the report. So this allows you to identify any risks. It creates a comprehensive reporting to help you become compliant, utilize the vulnerability scanning and penetration testing of cWatch. In this report, you'll see a domain summary, a detailed report about the domain showing the attackers and which threat vector was breached, as well as the URL path and the type of attacks that have been eliminated. In the summary, in the report, you can see blacklist checking, phishing, malware downloads, drive-by downloads, Trojans, backdoors, suspicious behavior, and traffic flows. Everything's presented in a great graphical interface, and all the information in this report can be correlated based on the rules and specific needs of your organization. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see specifically where the attacks are coming from, the top attackers by region, and specifically by IP address. On the right-hand side, you can see all the information presented in a graphical interface, the attack origins, as well as the daily attack trends. On the left side of this screen, in the report, you can see the repeat attackers by day and by IP address, as well as the blocked attack types on the right-hand side, whether it's PHP injection attacks, SQL injection, or whether it's Joomla protection or WordPress plugins that we've been able to help monitor and protect our information. Here you can see the top targeted URL paths and what the count here has been. Now let's take a look at how we can run some various other reports. So let's take a look at how easy it is to build a PCI report. By going to the reporting session, I click on Report Management, and I can select the attributes that I want to build that report. cWatch does have canned reports that can be automatically generated or scheduled on a set interval, but essentially I want to see recently created accounts. So I click on the attribute itself that's going to be used to create this report. And I'm going to come down here and click Generate Report. The quest has been accepted, and this report is now being generated in the background. cWatch finishes correlating all the information on the back end, and you get notified with this great PCI compliant report. As you can tell on the left-hand side, it shows the time, the device host, the name, the message specifically based on the correlation rules you've created, whether incorrect access security tokens are missing, specifically for audit and PCI compliance, and the Komodo agent being used. Any organization looking to become PCI compliant needs to be able to produce PCI audit checking. Utilize cWatch to help you and your organization become compliant. Now that we've seen how to create specific user interfaces, correlate rules, create different types of reports, I'm going to hand it back over to you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Totally appreciate your walking us through the product. I think that pretty much will do it for the video portion of the program. Stick around for the chat portion, though. Any questions you have, by all means, use the chat interface to ask Zach or John any questions you have. I'm Josh Lebowitz. Zach Forsyth, Director of Product Strategy for cWatch and Dome. Thank you so much for being here. Totally appreciate you coming in. That was awesome. Okay, very, very good. We'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.